We hear some interference because we're in the computer lab right now. So, all right, so they switch off the mic. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our training. It's Gerard's speaker, sorry. Okay, because there are a few of us in the lab right now, so there's some interference. So our colleague is going to switch it off. Hi again. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Microsoft Excel training on a Friday morning. We're very excited to see all of you today, and so thankful that so many colleagues have signed up for this session with us. All right, so okay, let me go on to my next slide. So this is your trainer for today. I'm Cindy, and my partner is Sujata. We're from SCCM, from the computing department. All right, so this is the agenda we've planned for today. We're going to welcome everyone about 5 minutes, and then later on from 9:05 to 10:15, we're moving on to introduction to formula. Okay, so this introduction to formula is not a very basic level. So there are just some, you have to have some form of familiarity with the Excel interface. Okay, that said, it's not a very advanced level of Excel. You just need to know how to use your mouse, be comfortable looking at some cells, okay, and just follow along the instruction. So I will go quite slow because we have a good mix of crowd. We have colleagues from different diversified backgrounds. So there will be some terms where some colleagues, some friends are more comfortable listening to, and there are some terms where it's going to be new to some of us. So putting that into mind, I'm going to go slower. All right. Just a short introduction to one or two formulas. Moving on, we will go into conditional statement and logical operations. So over here, this is when we'll do some if and nested statement, just 2 or 3 exercises over here. Depending on the speed, then we will move on into homework, but I won't call it homework, it's just exercises for us to try out, all right? So this is just an estimation. If we finish faster, so we shall go for a break earlier, right? So I'm covering the first part, which is on just introduction to formula, introduction to some simple interface, some conditional statement and logical operations. Sujata will be covering part 2, which is on lookup and reference functions. Okay, so this part you have a little bit more exciting things to do over here. Right? Now, are you feeling stuck? As if you're ever feeling stuck in any of during our class, we've got your back. All right, we have Gerard, Kiat, and Siti, all of us from SCCM to help you out. So if we are here physically in the lab, which all of us are right now, they will go to your place to help you. So since we're all doing this virtually, if you have questions, we'll do our very best to attend to you. If there are questions that need a little bit of time to search for some special functions for you, do give us some time and we will come back to you with the answers for some special functions that you need. All right, so we've got your back on this one. So we have 2 learning outcomes over here. All right, at the end of the topic, learners should be able to, number 1, apply some functions of Excel, and number 2, perform some calculations in Excel, applying functions and performing calculations. Okay, so maybe at this point, some people are thinking, oh, all right, do I have to be an expert in Excel to start this training? No, you don't have to be an expert. As mentioned just now, you just need to know how to use your mouse, be familiar with some interface, okay, because we're moving into formulas and functions. All right, that said, I will go through rather slowly. Excel is something like, if you play a music instrument, it's like playing the piano, playing the ukulele, the violin, or playing basketball. Sometimes we need time to practice. The more we practice, the more familiar we are with the functions and with the interface. So if it looks a little bit funky, if it looks a little bit awkward and not too user-friendly at first, it's fine. After using this function for several times, you'll notice that it's almost the same. The funkiness remains, but it's almost the same throughout all the problems that we need to solve. Okay, so you can be a rock star, a nurse, a policeman, an astronaut, a chef, a mother, a teacher, a good friend. This is Ali Bomba, yeah? Fireman. Just about anyone to learn Excel. All right. Okay, now let's start the training. Okay. Just want to let you know, if you see my head like moving from side to side, it's because I've got a few screens over here. So sometimes I'll be looking over there or over there. All right. Okay. Give me a second. Scroll through. All right. Okay. We have shared. Oh, sorry. I just need to like all this. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. Okay. All right. So can you please just upload the link of the files? Oh, thank you. Okay. So my colleague Sujata will be uploading the link to the Access files. It's already there. It's in the chat box. Yes. So you can see in the chat box over here. So I'm just gonna like this. Okay. You can see in the chat box over here. I'm gonna click this. So you've got part 1 and part 2. I wonder if I can change color right now. Somehow like pink color a little bit more. All right. So, okay. So we've got part 1 and part 2. We're going to start with part 1 first. Okay. Now I'm going to use my PowerPoint. All right. Okay. So what I want you to do is just to open up the file called formula_exercises. Let me do this. Open up the file called part 1. Part 1. Okay. If you have just logged in, let me just repeat. If you have just joined us, please click on the link here in the chat box. Then it will bring you to this page. Click on part 1. And you've got one folder and 2 files. So I think it's better if you download.
Connecting.
Yeah. All right. Hello, good morning. So you can download this formula exercise and you can download conditional statement, and of course you can download homework as well. So we're going to start with this file first, formula_exercise. Formula_exercise. I noticed some of our friends just joined us. Okay, for those who just joined us, please click in the chat box to go to Google Drive and you can download these files. Formula_exercise. Okay. When you open up formula_exercise, you will see 2 tabs over here, 2 worksheets, shortcuts, and formula syntax. Shortcuts and formula syntax. Just for the benefit of friends who have not touched Excel for quite some time, I'm just gonna jog through some very simple interface. Okay, you see there's a plus button here. Now, if you are already good in this, then just be patient with us. Thank you. So there's something called New Sheet. You can click on New Sheet, and you've got Sheet 1. Okay, so I can double click on the worksheet here. Can double click, or I'm going to click out, or I can just right click and click rename. I'm just going to type this as flashback. Maybe you've learned Microsoft Excel 3 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 3 months ago. All right, so it depends on when was your last time really touching and dwelling into Excel. So this is a worksheet that we managed to open up. All right, and these are all called cells. So I'm going to use my mouse to just click around, and these are cells. So just feel comfortable, not being worried that you will accidentally click on anything wrong. These are the cells. So I'm now click on A1. This is called row. Sorry, this is called column. Column, and these are rows. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are called rows. The A, B, C, D, E, F, G are called columns. Okay? And the boxes are called cells. So if I were to put my mouse over here, let me see if I can zoom in. I can. Yeah. So I'm going to click here. And you notice there's a name box here that tells me I'm now in location cell A1. I'm in location cell A1. All right. Then I can click in F2. So we can say F2. I'm in location F2. All right. So sometimes we need to go to a certain cell location. So if I say, okay, look at D2, look at D2. So D2, so click, this will be D2. We will move on with more examples, all right? And sometimes you will need to type functions. Sometimes we're just typing students' names. For example, I can type students. Okay, and let's say I type gender, all right? Maybe this is John. So after you type, you can just press enter. Ali and Cindy. Let's say John is male, Ali is male, Cindy is female. All right, so this is how we input information into the cells. All right, now sometimes we will need to add in formulas. All right, so I just go slower a bit, just in case some people need to look at the screen and minimize. Because I understand some of us have got 2 screens. We're using one screen to look at the Microsoft team and one screen to execute the exercises. Some of us need time to minimize our screen, right? Okay. And then I can just, yeah, highlight these 2 and I can just bold them, for example. And I've got student names and gender. All right. And to enter a formula, this is where you can enter your formula. Okay, formula. So you can enter your formula over here. We'll do formulas later, right? So I'm in C1 typing the word formula, and here I can enter something. I can enter, I will do the formula later, okay? So I can press an equal sign and enter formulas here. All right. Okay, so this is just to jog you back, just in case you have not touched Excel for quite some time. If you have, I think these are just very simple things, all right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you back to, so this is quite simple because we've got only 3 rows. 1, 2, 3. John, Ali, and Cindy. Sometimes we have 100 rows, 200 rows, 1,500 rows, 2,000 rows. That's when knowing some simple shortcuts will be very helpful. Okay, so I've got flashback as a tab here. I'm just going to leave it there. I've got formula syntax and I've got shortcuts. So now click on shortcuts. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the, thank you. Just going to see how many people we have now. Okay, we have 45. Good morning to everyone. All right. So again, for students that just joined us, friends, colleagues that just joined us, go to part 1, formula underscore exercise. Okay, please download formula underscore exercise. And now click on the shortcut tab. Shortcuts. For this exercise, we're just going to learn some simple shortcuts to move about. because some of our exercises have got quite a number of rows, so it saves your time in scrolling up and down. And just in case some of you get lost somewhere down there, so you can just go back to the first cell rather easily. Okay. So, all right. So now we're going to navigate Excel with some shortcuts. Yeah. Okay. So these are some shortcuts that you can use. Control arrow. You can use control arrow. Control shift arrow. Control home or end. Control page up or page down. Some simple control shortcuts for us to move about. Okay. So it's the same file name, formula_exercises. I'm going to end this. This one, right? So I'm going to click on A1. I'm going to put my mouse over A1. Then I can start. Press Control on my keyboard and press, let's say I'm going to press right arrow key. I press, my left hand is still on Control keyboard. I press left arrow key. My right hand, press right arrow key. My left hand, press left arrow key. Okay, I think you get the idea. All right. So what it does is that it jumps to the last cell in that region in the direction of the arrow. Right arrow key, left arrow key. Now I can press Control Shift Arrow. Control Shift Arrow. If I'm talking too soft, please do let me know, okay? So Control Shift Arrow, what it does is that it selects to the last cell in the data region in the direction of the arrow. With my Control and Shift still on my left hand, I'm going to press arrow key down. Okay, so let me just repeat this. Now, I click back on cell A1, Control right arrow, Control left arrow, or Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift down arrow. It selects the entire piece of information. Okay. Let's say you're somewhere. Let's say I'm just simply going to scroll somewhere. Okay. Let's say I go to cell G. Okay, here, Fantasia. Okay, go to this one, H11. Just say I go to H11. I can press Control Home. It will bring me to the top left. All right, it will bring me to the left, or I can press Control End as well. So it works almost the same in this aspect. Yeah, or you can also press Control Page Down, Control Page Up, Control Page Down, Control Page Up. So why are we doing this? Because sometimes you really want to scroll. Sometimes you just want to look at your information. Sometimes you just want to select an entire piece. So Control Shift arrow key down. Okay, I repeat, I'm going to scroll up on A1. Then I press Control Shift arrow key down. I'm selecting the entire column in A1. I'm selecting the entire column in A1, which is title. Okay, so just in case you ever got lost and you want to go somewhere, you want to select something, you can do this. All right. Okay, so that's all for shortcuts. We're going to move into some simple formula syntax. All right, simple formula syntax. So I'm going to open up my Microsoft PowerPoint file again. Okay, so just to recap, right? We've got 3 virtual facilitators with us here in the lab. We're in Lab A in level 4, Glenmary campus. So if you have questions, you can type them down in the chat box, and we will do our best to come back with the answers for you. All right. Okay. So now I'm moving on to the next slide. That is getting to know some formula syntax. All right. So some of us know, we are familiar with what a syntax is. Okay, maybe for some of us, we're thinking, okay, I've learned this in my university, or yeah, I know. Syntax is what? It simply means the way some words are arranged to make sense to form some sentences. So, okay, let me just see. I'm assuming not assuming. I think all of us can speak more than one language, right? We can speak Bahasa, English, Tamil, Telugu, Hindi maybe, and maybe some other dialects, and Mandarin, Hokkien, Hakka, and so on. So you'll notice, right, when we speak, maybe the word arrangements, the grammars are different from English. It's different from Bahasa. Okay, and maybe if you know Japanese or if you know other languages, the way the sentences are arranged are different. So you can call it as syntax if you were to apply it into our language. All right. So when we're speaking, so we say, I am going to school. I am going to school. I'm going to have fun. We don't say school I am going. We don't say fun I'm having. Sometimes we say that. All right. So that's how the syntax works. So over here in Excel, they have got their own syntax. C language, their own syntax. Java, their own syntax. French, their own syntax. I think we have another French training coming out, right? Spanish, their own syntax. So what it says here is that we're going to just look at the function called match. What is this? This is a function. Okay, this is just a function. How many functions are there in Excel? There are more than about 500 over functions. More than 500 over functions. Okay, so some functions we use more often in our job, and different people use different functions more frequent than the rest. Okay, so this function is called match. What it does is it just matches some values for us. So this is the function. All right. So function names are not case sensitive. Do you have to type capital letters all the time? No, we don't have to. But for Microsoft PowerPoint purposes and for demonstration purposes, I tend to type capital letters so that we're more aware that, okay, hey, that's a function. Okay, so they are not very case sensitive and are not always required. Because sometimes you may have done this before or you may have not, never mind. Sometimes you just want to add 2 cells. And then you say cell A1 plus B1. Okay? Sometimes you say A1 divided by B1. Sometimes A1 is greater than B1. Or A1 equals to B1. Right? Okay? So under such circumstances, we don't really have to type a function in front. Unless you want to type your sum function, your median function, mode function, mean function, max function, and so on. Okay, so the function that we have here to just getting to know the syntax is called match. Over here, these are called the arguments. Over here, they're called the arguments. So what does arguments do? Which vary by function and provide Excel with the information needed to evaluate a result. So meaning that these are just arguments there to let us verify some things. Okay, to give us the right information, to let me match, you see, if gender is equals to male, if gender is equals to female, if hobby is equals to reading, if distance to school is equals to 10 kilometers, then are you going to give students some extra allowance? So these are just some extra arguments for us to put inside. That's it. Not all arguments are required all the time. Okay, you see, this is in a square bracket. Right? You see a square bracket here. If it's a square bracket, it is optional. Okay, so most functions have at least one required argument, but some don't require any. Like row, just now earlier I typed now, then I noticed that, okay, I didn't do some settings. Column, today, now. So what's this again? Row is a function. Column is today is a function, now is a function. okay? But they don't have all those arguments inside because some of them do not really require those long lists of arguments. All right, there's a pro tip here that tells us sometimes after you type match, then you have this tips that appears to tell you guides as what to input next. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is, again, go back to this file called formula_exercises. Please excuse me, it's a bit cold, so I shall put on my sweater. Please open up the file called formula_exercises. Okay. Thank you. So formula_exercises. Okay. All right. So you have shortcuts and formula syntax, right? Please click on formula syntax. So over here, this is just a populated data of some registered users, okay, with their street address, city, state, zip code, birth date, birth year, telephone, area code, email, username. All right. So we're just going to warm up a little bit lah. All right. So over here, you can say equals to. It's just to get used to learning some functions only. Okay. Okay. And you equals to year. Equals to year. And I can type F2. Then close bracket. Okay. I will mostly repeat. Yeah. Let me zoom in. What's happening now? Go to formula syntax and you will see this set of data over here. In column G, there's something called birth year. Birth year. So what I want to know is, okay, I want to find out, I just want to know all the years lah. I just want to know all the years. Maybe I don't need a birth date. Maybe later on I need to do something. Those who are born after a certain year, they've got a my card and my kid. You know, those who are born after a certain year, maybe they are senior citizens or non-senior citizens or youthful citizens. All right. So I'm just going to type equals to year, open bracket, and you can click on F2, okay, or equal sign, you have to type equal sign, type YEAR, open bracket, or you can type F2, close bracket. Okay, then you get 1999. So what it did was that it extracted the year from the column F. So I'm just going to go to G3 and do the same thing one more time, just to warm up lah, practice typing. All right, YEAR, open bracket, click on F3. Click on F3, close bracket. Okay, enter. So if I have 2 students or 2 customers, maybe I can do that. I've got quite a number. Oh, 21 only over here. Okay, 21. So what I can do is I can do an autofill function. So I'm going to go to my year 1978. If you can remember what happened in 1978, okay, what's a good year? All right. So I'm just going to click delete on 1978. And I click back my 1999, my G2. Again, how do I know it's G2? I click on this and I can look at the name box over here. It tells me it's G2, or I can look at the column G and look at 2. That's why it's G2. So I'm going to put my mouse over and it's okay. And when I put my mouse over here, this is an autofill handle. So one thing, yeah, beautiful about Excel is that you see different cursors all the time, right? Okay, so I click on G2, then put my autofill handle here, and you see it's a thin black hair, it's a hairline cross, not the fat one, not the white color one, but the black one, and I'm just gonna double click. Okay, I'm just gonna double click. What happens when I double click is that it will autofill for me. Okay, so today we'll be doing this several times. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to undo. I'm going to press Ctrl Z on my keyboard just to undo. Ctrl Z. And to do this one more time for friends who may have not managed to catch this part just now. Okay, all right. So let's say, if you're wondering, hey, what is the formula? I forgot already. See, when I put my mouse over, I can see the formula here in the formula box. Or I can double click here, then I can see, okay, this is my formula. I can double click inside cell G2, enter, or I can click on cell G2 and look at the formula bar. Okay, so I put my cursor, my mouse over here, go to the corner. Okay, you see a thin hairline cross, double click to autofill. So we'll be doing this quite a lot today, all right? And then you've got the year. Okay. Now the next thing is, this is the telephone number, all right? Actually, for me, it's been quite some time since I used my house phone. So I think, we have our own area code also. We have our own area code also, right? Like 03 is KL. I'm from Penang, so it's 04. 07 is Johor. I think Pahang is 0. Oops, I forgot. 09. 09 is Pahang, and so on, right? Perlis, Sabah, Sarawak, and so on. But this is, we took this from a US textbook. So we're just going to follow this example for now. So maybe you want to look at the area code. You just want to know, maybe area code will tell you where your customers are. Okay? So, yeah, there's a question. How does the system know which set of number is the year? Okay, because this over here, you use the date function, So what it does is that it picks up from here. So maybe you can right click format cells and you use the date function. So it's already a date. Okay. So remember, if when we come here, we can have we can do right click, format cells, currency, accounting date, and so on. So we're not really doing this today. Okay. Yeah, but this is to let you know that for each cell, we can format it accordingly. So if it's a birthday, you can right click and just format it into date and choose your version. So it's a built-in function already. Okay, it's a built-in function. So that's why when we put year F2, what it does is that it extracts the year and populate this information for us. All right. Thank you. Okay. So over here, we've got area code, right? So like I said, there are 500 functions. We can't finish learning all 500. So we just pick a few, all right? Left, let's say I do left, H2, 3. What happens is that it will take the first 3 digits. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, go to area code A2. I'm going to delete this and do this one more time. If I just put equal sign, LEFT, I press enter, what happens is that it means my function is not complete. My function is not complete. So you get this error. So never mind, press delete. Equals to LEFT. Let's say I open and close bracket. Also cannot. Right. So what it does is that it will extract for me will extract for me X number of digits that I want. So over here in this setting, I want to know the first 3 area code. So bracket 3. Sorry, wait, H2, sorry, H2, comma 3. Okay, why H2? Because this information is in H2. So I'm going to delete this and do this one more time. Equals to left, open bracket, H2, comma 3. Can I do other figures? Can. H2, comma, I can choose 5. I go back to I2, H2, comma, I can say 2. Okay, so H2, comma 3 for me to know the area code. So I can do the same. Equals to left, open bracket, H2, comma 3. Why? Because the first 3 digits gives me my, this is not H2 anymore, sorry, this is H3, right? It gives me my area code. So later I can just autofill this. So I'm going to undo. Okay. What I have here is my area code. I put my mouse over. Then I double click to autofill. Okay. Okay. We're going to move on. So let's say I've got all this, I've got this email address and I want to find out, okay, I just want to know their usernames. Okay, I just want to know their usernames. So over here, you can type equal sign, again left, all right, open bracket. Now, what we did just now was we type equal sign left, and then we straight away type H2, comma 3, and so on. So let's say if I were to type J, comma 3 again, then I close bracket. What happens is that it gives me Jen. It gives me Jen. But what I want is Jennifer J. McGrath 99. I want Jennifer J. McGrath 99. I don't want Jen. Okay, so I'm going to come back to K to press delete. Equals to left, open bracket. Then I'm going to type J2, comma, SEARCH, search for anything until the alias sign. Then type again J2, inside J2, and close. Oh. Okay. Left equals to left, open bracket, J2, search, open bracket again, and then you put the inverted commas here, alias, then you close it back, followed by a comma. Means that it will search until the alias, all right, starting from J2. Now, what happens here is, okay, I tell you what, I can just copy and paste for you the formula in case it's a bit difficult or small, right? Yeah. Because you know why? I do have problem looking at the screen. Sometimes too small, I cannot see you. So, okay. So you can just copy this formula down. All right, and see if you get it. So if Jennifer McGrath, Jennifer J. McGrath 99 alias. Okay, now I'm going to double click here, but I don't want the alias sign. I don't want. All right, I just want Jennifer J. McGrath only because I want to populate username, like then I need to do some formatting somewhere. So I'm going to press -1, -1. Okay, -1. Enter, you get Jennifer J. McGrath 99. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste this formula into our chat box here. Yeah, because I know that sometimes it's a bit hard to, to switch screen, to keep switching screen, right? Thank you so much. Okay, so you can put a -1, try to copy and paste inside. Then I'm going to put my mouse over here and do the same thing, autofill. So double click. So remember, the autofill works. Thank you. Only when you have this autofill handle. Double click, it will populate this down. Okay. So what it did was that by using this left function to search, it will search for the string inside your J2. J2. Okay. It will search inside JENNIFER JMC GRATH 99. Then it will search until the alias sign, right? But we don't want the alias inside. So after that, I close back and say -1. This is just how the syntax works. Okay, this is just how the syntax works. Like say Japanese works like this, English works like this, Bahasa works like this. Different languages, sentences are formed differently by looking at how some words are placed in front or behind or in the center. Okay, so that's all for formula syntax. This is for us to get used to understanding, okay, there is something called formula, and to just be more comfortable with syntax. All right. Now, I think what's going to happen is, let's just take a 3 minutes break. Okay, take a 3 minutes break. I'm going to close this file. After we come back from just a short 3 minutes break, right, just a breather, I'll go outside and run for a while. It's a bit too cold. Okay, we will continue with conditional statement exercise. Conditional statement exercise. All right, so if you need to make some coffee or wash your hand or if it's too cold, go ahead. Let's take a 3 minutes breather. Let me just share my screen. It's pretty cold in the lab here. Okay, see you in 3 minutes time. Thank you. All right, guys, we're back. It was a short break, right? Just for me to go outside to just feel more warm. All right, next, we'll move on to, okay, so we're done with this. Next, we'll move on to conditional statement. Okay, so maybe in some earlier years of us learning Excel, or maybe again, if it's your first time, you would have come across some functions, okay? Today, we're not really going to do those functions here, like your sum function, your divide function, your median function, and so on. Okay, we're doing conditional statements with some logical operators inside. But that's it, this is at a beginner's level, all right? So what are conditional statements for? So as mentioned, condition. So all conditional statements in Excel are based on simple if-then statements. This means what? Okay, if it's raining, then bring an umbrella. If it's sunny, then bring sunglasses. If it's sunny and it's summer, skip work and go to the beach. We don't have beach lah. Where's our nearest beach? All right. So, yep. So, in Penang, I think the nearest beach is Gurney Drive, Tanjung Tokong. Sorry, I'm going to my story mode. So I stay in my story mode. I'm from Penang, but I'm working in UG. My last location was Tanjung Bunga, yeah, near, if you know the tsunami area, I used to stay somewhere there. Okay, they've got nice pisang goreng. There's also a nice floating mosque. So yes, Penang people. All right. Okay, so yeah, these are conditional statements. Conditional statements. Okay, if it's raining, then bring umbrella. If it's sunny, bring sunglasses. If it's sunny and summer, stay work and go to the beach. All right. So basically, what we're telling Excel is like, hey Excel, if this statement is true, then do this. Otherwise, do something else. Do something else. Okay. Okay. So you've got if statement over here. All right. So a simple if statement will look like this. Yeah? If, okay, so maybe if followed by a logical test over here. This means any test that results in either true or false. So that maybe if salary is less than 1,000, okay, then maybe you want to categorize and say they are part-time staff. Example, maybe you've got your part-time waitress, part-time receptionist, example, all right? Or if here it says A1 equals to Google, then do something. Then do something. Okay, otherwise, then return this as false. Return this as something else. Okay, so you've got your three components over here. All right, this is the anatomy of the if statement. There are three components. You've got the if formula. We've got the logical test, one component. We've got the value if true, and we've got the value if it is false. If it's false, do what? Okay, so the sample we have over here is on a weather report. It says location over here on our slide. It says temperature is in Fahrenheit. Precipitation and whether is it freezing or not. Okay, just a little bit on precipitation, right? Precipitation is just like, here it says how many mm, right? So when we watch rain, when we watch snow, here we don't have that, but my example got snow, all right? When you watch rain or snow falling from above, we're actually watching precipitation in action. Okay, so precipitation happens when water falls down to the Earth's surface. Yeah, in order to do this training, I have to read up a bit on precipitation also. So this water, right, when water falls to Earth's surface, it can be liquid form, it can be liquid state or solid state, right? So you can get snow, you can get hails, you can get sleet, you can get rain. Okay, so in other words, what this means is precipitation is water falling in rain, snow, or hail form. Rain, snow, or hail form. Okay, actually I have, if I go next, this is one slide that shows what precipitation is. A form of water, rain, snow, sleet, hail that falls to the Earth's surface. Okay, and just let you know, at what temperature does it start to snow? At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, 0 degrees Celsius is what? 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Oh, we are going to do this. Yeah. Let me just end show. Keep this. And okay, I'm closing my old file, conditional state, conditional one. Conditional. Okay, so I've got a few columns for me to fill up. All right, so don't worry. I noticed that we like me typing the formula into the chat box, so I'll do that. Thank you so much for your feedback. Okay. So here, what we want to see is that if, okay, let me just zoom in. Freezing or not. So I'm gonna type. Don't worry, if you can't see or what, right? You just copy and paste my formula, okay? Less than 32, then say yes. Otherwise, say no. Remember just now we were saying, if this happens, then do this. If not, do something else. So the condition must be met here. If G2 is less than 32 degrees, G2 is Fahrenheit, right? So just now the early side I mentioned, 32 degrees is 0 degrees. 32 Fahrenheit is 0 degrees. So means, let me press enter. Okay, so this is not 0. Okay, let me just copy this. So you can, I'm just gonna put it here without any heading, okay? Maybe I type, this is condition, sorry, okay, I give you a heading, sorry. If statement, okay, I'll just type if statement. If statement. So let me delete this. Okay, so you can copy this into your file. All right. And again, I'm going to autofill. Now notice, how come some parts got error one? Just leave it first. Okay, some parts got error. So what it's telling us is, I'm going back to my PowerPoint for a while. What they want to find out is, you're categorizing the freeze column, whether it's going to be yes, if the temperature is equal to or below 32 degrees. Otherwise, put no. Okay, so the temperature is here. All right. So you see here, 75. Is it freezing? No. 18. Is it freezing? Yes. Why? Because it's lesser than 32. So different scenarios will have different conditions, different argument. 86. Is 86 above 32? Yes. 86 above 32. So that's all. Is it freezing? No lah, it's not freezing. Okay. So okay, 28. 28, is it less than 32? 28 is less than 32. Is it freezing? Yes, it's freezing. Okay. So it's less than 32 and yes, it's freezing. If it's not less than 32, then return as no. Okay. So I'm going to come back to here. Here. So you will notice I'm going to zoom out. Okay, there are some missing values here and there, not available. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. If I click on freeze, there's no There's yes, and there are some which are not available. I'm just going to uncheck this to make sure that this is there, because later we're gonna try to fix this, right? Because sometimes as we're doing data entry, sometimes you see something, you drink Starbucks or what, you accidentally type the wrong thing and you don't know, right? Yeah. So you're typing so many things and then you don't know, or sometimes it's just a genuine error somewhere. So I want to know, oh, okay, I've got how many? I've got just a few numbers of, but I've got 8. I've got 8 not available over here. So I'm clicking back on my filter button. Let me just select all. Okay, so we just leave that there for now. Okay, next. Using back the same file, right? So realistically, sometimes we may not have such a simple scenario. Sometimes it is that simple, sometimes it's not. So sometimes it will involve more than one criteria and different potential values. So what we're going to do is we're going to use nested if statement. Nested if statement. I don't know if you, this one old movie called Inception, I think last night, about you dreaming that you are dreaming in a dream. Okay, but I don't know if you've had that dream. You are dreaming, and then you dream that you're inside a dream. So when you wake up twice, something like that. So this is a nested if statement, right? Meaning, instead of just asking, is it less than 32? I want to know two things, all right? I want to know, okay, is it less than 40? If yes, then return code. Okay, it's code now. But if false, okay, change color. If false, right, then this is where we start another if statement inside. So that is called a nested if statement. Some of you are very familiar with nested if statement, nested loops and all this. So some of us are seeing this for the first time. Okay, so nested inside. So what happens is that this whole thing is supposed to be the false one, right? The false one. Yeah, remember just now we had yes and no. So this whole thing is supposed to be the false one. But then the false one is not just no. What it does is that, okay, do more things. Then, okay, if it's not less than 40, here's my mouse, then is it greater than 80? If it's not less than 40, is it greater than 80? If it's greater than 80, it means it's hot. So less than 40 means it's cold. Greater than 80 means hot. Anywhere in between, okay lah, put mild. All right, so if temperature is less than 40, climate is cold. If temperature is greater than 80, climate equals to hot. Otherwise, just put as mild. So this set here is a nested statement, okay, of the if statement. I'm going to clear the ink here. All right, so let's try. I'll just keep conditional statement. Conditional statement, okay. Okay, so over here, I'm going to type equals to if G, type where? Type on inside cell J2. Type inside cell J2. If G2 is lesser than 40. Why 40? Because this is in Fahrenheit, okay? Less than 40 means still cold because 32 is 0, 0 degrees. All right, so 40 is, I think yesterday I said about 4 degrees Celsius, if I'm not mistaken. Comma, then display COLD, cold. Close back with the inverted commas. Put a comma there. Okay, then you continue with an if statement. If, this is the false value one, right? If, then open again, G2 is greater than 80, so either very cold or very hot. Then display hot. You can write panas if you want, hot. Close bracket. Otherwise, if not cold, not hot, remember we have to wrap it up. wrap it up with something. And say it's mild. So MILD, close bracket. So you notice there is one set of orange bracket here. The bracket is orange or brown. Yeah. And here I call it orange. Orange, close it. Now, it's fully closed when you have a big black bracket. Okay? Enter. Cold. So I'm going to copy this. So you can just copy and paste. Because can we change the whole comma into a symbol? Can we change it to a symbol? Wait, climate corner. Yeah, our virtual assistants will come up with the answer soon. Thank you. Into climate column. And copy and paste this there. Okay? Copy and paste this there. Okay. So I'm just going to do this faster a little bit now. Put my mouse over here, double click autofill. Okay, and yes, there are still some errors. I'm aware. Let me just put some color. One light orange color. Okay, got error. Got error, never mind. All right. Sorry. Sorry, let me just close my file on another screen. Just close on my screen. Okay. I keep opening wrong for you. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one. So we have talked about precipitation, yeah? It means the formation of water lah, in simple terms. But I'm sure our engineering friends and colleagues can give us a better explanation of physics or chemistry, science colleagues, yeah? Okay. Now we move on to AND OR statement. Now, Excel's AND OR statements allow you to include multiple logical tests at once. Okay, we're going to look at this one. What is the function? The main function is still if. Just now we did year, we did left, and then we saw one slide on match. Okay, so this function is still called if, right? Now, over here we have two arguments. These argument number 1 and argument number, my mouse a bit, argument number 2. Argument number 1 and argument number 2. Okay, so the thing is, what if we need to create, right, a logical test that is based on a number of different fields or variables as opposed to just temperature? So just now one was, okay, based on temperature only. But what if we also want to know other things? What if I want to know, I want to make sure whether it's freezing or not? Then I want to know whether the precipitation is greater than 0 or not. Is greater than 0 or not. Okay, let's say I've got two conditions. And these two conditions must be true one. Not either one. Okay, it's like you have to be 18 years old and you have to be fit. All right. Must be 18 years old, must be fit. Then only can join, let's say, certain sports. Right? So or is you can be 18 years old. If you're not 18, or as long as you're fit also can. So N means two conditions must be met. What are the two conditions they're looking at? So you see the way for readability, right? N, A, and D. Because when we speak, we don't say and Gabriel and Cindy are going to Texas Chicken, right? You don't say and, you know, Hazim and Kiat are going to Starbucks. We don't say like that lah, right? We'll say, we don't start with and first, right? Okay, so over here, this means D2, if D2 equals to yes. D2 means what? Freezing. Is it freezing or not? Freezing, must be yes. And C2 must be greater than 0. Why? Means something coming out. Something coming out. Precipitation is happening. Then it is labeled as snow. Okay? Another argument says, now, D2, okay, equals to no. If D2 equals to no, D2 no. All right? And C2 is greater than 0. No. And greater than 0. Then you can say it is rain. Can you see or not? Okay. Is it freezing? No lah, not freezing. But got precipitation or not? Got 2.3. It's not 0, 2.3. Okay, then put as rain. If all else otherwise, put as none. Means it is here. All right, you can put as none. Means this, and this. All right, means got nothing lah. Nothing is happening. Means no snow today, no rain today. Maybe just cold only. Okay, yeah. So let's try this. So let me just read here. If the temperature is below freezing means what? Below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's freezing. And the amount of precipitation is greater than 0. Something coming out. It's not 0, something coming out. So type snow. If the temperature is above freezing, okay, above freezing, and the amount of precipitation is greater than 0, then rain. Okay, above freezing is not so cold, huh? Otherwise, type none. Okay, I'm gonna end show here. Keep this and go to our conditional statement. This page, right? Okay. Okay, let me just. Huh? Equals to. Okay, I'm gonna type if. Yeah. So this is when, say, for readability purposes, we don't say and Gerard Gabriel, right? Say, and Gerard Ashwarya. You say Gerard and Ashwarya. But for Excel purposes, we put and in front. So I2 equals to yes. H2 is greater than 0. H2 is greater than, H2 is what? H2 is, precipitation. Okay? If it's freezing and if it's greater than 0, close bracket, comma, then say it is snowing. Snow lah, I put snow. Comma. If, and open bracket, I2 equals to no, comma, okay, H2 greater than 0, close bracket, then we say it is raining. Otherwise, if none of these arguments are being fulfilled, then we say none. So copy this and call right PRCP type, correct. And copy and paste. very cold. Very cold, my fingers can't really move also. All right, so you copy this now into the column PRCP type here. And then put your mouse over, do the same thing, do autofill. So we're still aware there's an error here there, all right? Now, actually we are almost done already, huh? Just a little bit, like 2-3 more slides only. Okay. Now over here, you can put an or statement. Okay, remember just now I said you can be fit or you can be 18. It means you're 19 also can, 20, that means either you're fit or you're 18, not you're fit plus you have to be 18 years old. So over here, we are categorizing conditions as wet. We're going to categorize the condition. Is it dry or wet? If precipitation equals to rain or snow, because why? When it's raining, it's going to be wet, right? Snowing also wet. Okay. If it's not raining, if it's not snowing, then just put as dry. Okay. Yeah. Rain is also wet. Snow also wet. All right. So we're going to try this. This means if F2 equals to rain, okay, I'm going to, okay, change color lah, change color. Change color. Okay. If F2 equals to rain, F2 equals to rain. Okay. Or snow. Then you put wet. If it's not rain, if it's not snowing, then put dry. Print as dry. Return the value as dry. Okay, I'm going to ensure and type this down. Equals to, wait, can I zoom in some more? Can, you know, sometimes big also cannot see, small also cannot see. Okay, equals to if, and this is an or statement. Okay, it's an or, that means either one, or. But we don't speak like this, but for typing syntax in Excel, we type the or in front first. So we let them know, hey, I'm doing or, okay? Now K2 equals to SNOW, snow, or K2 can also be rain, yeah? And I'm going to print this as, I'm going to return as wet. Otherwise, if it does not fulfill that condition, if it's false, if it does not fulfill that condition, it's going to be dry. Okay. Okay. All right, you can copy and paste this there. So I'm going to put my mouse over in L2 under conditions and autofill. Okay, good. The error is there, just leave it. All right. Okay, one last part only, guys. So what have we done? We have done nested statements, okay? Meaning that there is more than one condition to be met, because sometimes we've got 2 or 3 conditions to meet for certain values to be printed. Now, what we want to do is this, okay. Almost to, just one, I think 1 or 2 more slides only. Okay, we're here now, the if error statement. So we don't fix some error with if error. Just so fixing error with the if error function, right, is to eliminate some error messages and for us to replace it with a value that we are choosing. Maybe you want to choose some values. Then why you want to do this? Because maybe sometimes you want to use it as front-end formatting tool or a trick or something, okay? So we want to categorize some data consistently. Maybe you want to categorize this as outlier. We want to categorize this as unique, categorize this as highlight, you know, or categorize this as others. It's just a category name that you want to put. So we may want to replace the NA, with a 0 or any other value, okay? So, okay, we're gonna do this. So this means that, okay, let's do this first, huh? Let's do this first. Okay, let's do this first, wait. You have missing data, right? 2 more slides only. 2 more slides only. I type here, equals to, now if error, open bracket if, okay, this is how the syntax works. G2 lesser than 32, comma, open bracket, yes, comma, yes, and then no, otherwise no, right? Or you can put other inside. So what this does is this. Okay. What it does is that, let me copy and paste for you first. Go to data. Data. Okay. So you see, there's a filter here. There's no other and yes. I'm just going to click on the other. So what it does is that it's telling us, it doesn't really rectify by giving us the value, because when someone was keying this in or when the sensors were collecting some answers, it was not available. So we're not going to fabricate or manipulate this data inside, but we want to highlight that, okay, there's something happening here. It's called others. So you might just want to look into this. You want to check with your existing data files and so on. Check if your sensors are working in certain location. So you know, okay, other means there are these not available NA answers over here. All right. Okay. Now, we're going to move on to the last one already, is statement. So now Microsoft Excel does give us a number of is formulas, each of which checks whether that certain condition is true or not. So you've got is blank, check whether reference cell is or value is blank, is number, check if that value is numerical, is text, check if it is text, is error, check if that cell value returns an error. Is error, checks whether the reference cell or value returns an error. Okay, so it's even, check if it's even, is odd, check if it's odd, is logical, check if whether the cell or value is a logical operator, is formula, check if it's a formula. All right, so let me just end this show here. We're going to do the last exercise, right? You have a column called flag error. Flag error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type equals to or is blank, comma, is error. In where? In G2 lah. Oh, let me make sure that everything is here first. It's here again, sorry, because just now it was filtered. OR, open bracket, is blank, 2, comma, is error. G2, and I close them. Okay. And say go flag errors, is it FLAG? Copy and paste this. Flag error, flag error, flag error. Okay, flag errors. Huh? So I'm going to autofill this. All right. Now I'm going to click on my N1 flag error. Then I click on the filter. Let's say I go to data filter. Okay, go to data filter again. Then I see, okay, I've got false and true. What is false? Let me see. So false is telling us this one don't have problem one. Okay, false. There's no problem over here. So true are the ones where, okay, it's true. Means that argument just now was true. What was the argument? Check whether the value is even. True. Sorry. Check whether the value returns an error. True. The value returns an error. That's why it says true. True, the value did return us an error. Is it true or not? Yes, the value did return us an error. These are the ones that tells us, okay, you might want to look into this block of data over here to check if there were any problems with the sensors or with data entry. All right. Okay, so later I will switch through again. So what have we done today? The first part we did started with introduction, just for again to jog back some flashback on Microsoft Excel for people that have not touched this for a long time. Then to just familiarize with some control shortcut keys in case you got lost somewhere, you know how to go back. Okay, understanding formula syntax, looking at the differences in syntax in our everyday language, Japanese, French, Tamil, Telugu, English, Bahasa, Chinese, Spanish, different languages have got different syntax. So is different programming languages and different languages in different products. A Microsoft Excel product, basic maybe versus an Oracle product. All right, and you've got your function, and inside are all your arguments. And you did a few arguments already. Okay, and then we did conditional statements. Conditional statements are what? If-then statements. If-then statements. Why do we want to have conditional statements? From the experience just now, you notice because sometimes there are different conditions to fulfill. Sometimes you want to know whether the student is getting A, B, C, D, or E. You want to know if it's a high achiever female student. High achiever maybe must score above 95, must be active in co-curriculum, must be a 3-year long-term student, something like that. Some conditions that we need to fulfill. Okay. Yeah. So we did the if statement and nested statement where I said it's like you sleep in a dream, then you woke up, and then you wake up again double. So it's a nested if statement. Okay, which means that everything else here is the false, the part which is false, and you're doing another if inside. If statement inside an if statement. Okay. And then we learn and an or statement. When two conditions must be true, or either one condition is true. And then we try to fix some errors. Fixing our error here is not really getting the old data, is to alert us and let us know, okay, there's something going there. I want to label it something. Okay, it helps us check when you have thousands and thousands of rows. Is there an error? Is there a blank? Is it numerical? Is it even? Is it odd? Is there something going on or not? All right, so thank you very much. Let's try some exercise. We won't really do this exercise now, but in the Google Drive, there's a folder called homework. So you see part 1 is mine, something called homework. Inside got question and answer. This is the question on, just allow me to open my file. To offer the question. This is the ones that I think we use a lot, but you can use VLOOKUP also. Yeah. So it says populate column D to return pass. So either say whether the student pass or fail. You can try. And then you've got all this condition. What is A? What is B? What is C? What is D? What is F? Okay. And then For students who score below 60 and above 90, maybe you want to alert someone, you call them as outlier. Okay, otherwise written as AVG, average. So below 60, above 90, you want to alert someone. In the middle one, 61, 62, 63, 82, to 90, they are average. And then question 4 is maybe you want to separate into male achiever versus female achiever. All right, and are there answers? Got answer. Yeah. Got answer. You can try and then you can try out the answers. If you just want to contact me to say, hey, Cindy, how come I can't get the answer? You can. But let's go for a break and this is the answer. Let's go for a break. And after this, we shall continue with part 2. Thank you, everyone. Our break is 15 minutes. Wish you a good Friday, 15 minutes break. Thank you. So I will set timer, okay? Yeah, you can rest already. Timer. Thank you. Slow.
Okay. Good morning. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second session. Okay, great. All right, so for the second session, we're still going to look into formulas, but we're going to look into a different types of formulas here. So we're going to look into lookup and also reference function. All right. So these are the things that we're going to do for today. So as you can see from the slide, so there'll be 5 techniques that we're going to go through for today. Yeah. So these are the second part of the sessions. So we're going to look up reference functions. Now we are starting to get into some of the really powerful heavy hitting formulas. All right. So we're going to talk about name arrays, which is a way to more efficiently work with your lookup formulas in cases that you are using the same arrays over and over. Okay, so VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. V stand for vertical and H stand for horizontal lookup, which are kind of 2 classic lookup functions that are used all the time and in Excel. So I'm going to talk about some formulas like row and rows, meaning S and without S, yeah? Column and columns, which can be really interesting component as part of the other lookup functions. We'll go into index and match. Talk about how to combine those, how to use match with a VLOOKUP function to do some really powerful stuff as well. So, and then after that, we're going to talk about offset. Yeah, so offset, yeah, is somewhat, it's quite complicated, but not really. Very interesting. You're going to use an interesting formulas, yeah, under offset functions. And we will also do an Excel demo during the demonstrations that will be conducted by Sujata, where we're going to build this dynamic chart that can be scrolled and zoom and move. Basically, yeah, we're going to do some stuff that most people would never think Excel is capable of. Okay, so we're going to use name array. Yeah, so I want to take just a second to talk about something called name arrays. Yeah, before we divide into specific lookup functions, name arrays are a really nice tool to help you simplify your lookup functions, especially if you find yourself using the same exact data array in multiple places or across multiple formula. So if you look at the example, if I have product level, okay, data in cell A1, okay, cell A1, and until D6. So I hope you can see. I'm using this exact data reference in a number place. I could get it a name, so which is here, yeah. So in this case, yeah, I'm going to call this range, yeah, from A to D, it as apparel, so that in the future, when I write formula that refer to this array, I can either write A1 to D6, or I can just write apparel in the reference bar here, which is the name that I have assigned to this particular array. So Excel, yeah, will help to recognize that and understand that I'm thinking about the array from A1 till D6. All right. So now I'm going to pass to Sujata to show the demonstrations on how the arrays works.
Okay, so for this, you guys can download part 2 of the Excel that was actually given earlier, the same link. Just go into the folder that says part 2 and download the Excel file. Yeah, the name of the file is part 2 lookup reference. Okay, so this is the file that we're going to be working with for this session. So there are a few exercises we're going to be doing. So the first part, if you look at it, I've color-coded the different functions that we'll be using. So the ones in gray are basically going to be the VLOOKUP as well as the HLOOKUP exercises. Then we'll move on to the match index, which are in green. And from there, we'll go into an example on choose, and we will end with one on scroll charts. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to be looking at this one. Just hold on, yeah. Okay, so I'd like you guys to go to the grades tab. Okay, so for this example, all we're going to do is we are going to see how we can name a certain array. So when I say array, normally it's a certain range that we are referring to in the formula that we are writing, or it can be a certain range that we're going to use in our workbook or worksheet. Yeah, so how we're going to do that is there are several ways of doing it. You can first do it by selecting a range. So here we have an array, which is our table, that starts at A1 and goes up to B6, correct? So you can start off by just selecting that, and you can go to this box over here that you see on the left that has the word A1 now, and you can type in the name of whatever you feel that's suitable for that particular range that you're working with. So in this case, I've highlighted A1 to B6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a name to this range in the name box over here. So this is the first way of doing it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put it as grade system. Then I press enter. Okay, so what you can see now is I have now a list of names there, but this is one name that I've actually assigned to this range. So what is the purpose of having a named array or using or defining a name? The reason we do this is because sometimes when you write formulas, you do not want to have a lengthy formula. So instead of using the range, you can replace it with the name. So the name serves as a variable, yeah, that you can put into your formula. So you can give any name you want. And in this case, in Excel, we use it normally to represent a table, or some people call it an array. So the next way of actually naming your array or your table is by going to formulas. And here you see you'll have 3 tabs. You have your function library, you have your defined name, you have your formula auditing, and you have your calculation. So we are going to use this group over here, which is under defined names. So what you do first is you can go to this over here that says in the group of defined names, the one that says define name, click on that. Now, what you can see here is you have a name here, you have the scope, and you can add in some comments if you want to. And because my table is highlighted, you can see the reference is already to A1 to B6. Now I'm just going to cancel this and I'm going to remove my highlight and I'm going to go back to define name. Okay, so now you see that the reference is at whichever location my active cell is in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a name. I'm going to call it maybe grading. Okay, so the name I'm going to give it now. And the scope. The scope is where you're going to be using this particular name. Is it going to be in the entire workbook? Or is it going to be in a certain worksheet? All the worksheets that I have in this book are listed here. So is it going to be used in this workbook? Which means anywhere, any sheet I can apply this particular name? Or do I only want to use it in a specific worksheet? So I can select which sheet I want to put it in. But normally I just leave it at workbook so I can use it anywhere in my sheets, especially if I'm working with multiple sheets where I want to have my formula in a different sheet, then it's better that you leave it as workbook. Yeah. So comments, I normally don't put any comments, but if you're working, you're collaborating with someone and you want them to know what this particular name refers to, then you can put in some words there to explain or give them an idea of what this particular name is referring to. So now the next step here, the 4th thing you need to put in is the reference, which location this particular name or which range this particular name is referring to. So how you do that is you just have to click on this button here, okay, that arrow, and you go and select the range that you want. Click it back again, it takes you back to the same prompt that you saw earlier, and you click OK. Now, if you go to the name manager, you'll be able to see that there are many names there. Yeah, because I've put in a few different names. So these are the names that I've defined in my formula. So if I go back to grading, you can see that it shows you the name as well as the range that this particular name is referring to. Okay, so the scope is also listed here. Now, what if I didn't want this? I want to remove it because I have multiple names here. All you can do is just delete it. Okay, you can delete it, whichever you don't want. Or if you choose to edit, it takes you back to the same screen that you had earlier, and you can do whatever edits you want to it. I'm going to change the... Okay, so that's on named arrays. Okay, so next we'll be moving on to rows and columns. Okay, so I'm just going to pass it back to Siti to go through that.
Okay. All right. Okay, so now you the earlier. Okay. All right. Okay. The earlier session, you have used name ranges, right? A different way on how to create name ranges using either toolbar or the name ranges on the left side of your Excel. So now let us move to the second part. The second task, yeah, which is row. So the row function returns the row number of a given reference function. So we are in top rows columns, which typically are not actually used on their own. So they are typically used as components of larger, more complicated formulas, but they do serve a very interesting and in some cases very useful purpose. So the ROE function, ROW, sorry, the ROW function simply returns the row number of a given reference. So if I say what is the row of A5, it would return 5 because cell A5 lives in the 5th row. Similarly, the pluralized version rows just tells me the number of total rows within a given array. So the third example down here, it uses defined array. Column and columns, essentially do the exact same thing. They just turn the column number of a given reference or the total number of a columns with an S in a given array. Okay, now we move on to the demonstrations on how to work with row and columns. We go back to Ms. Sujata.
Okay, so for this example, we're going to see how we can use rows and columns. But as Siti mentioned earlier, rows and columns, we don't use it normally as standalone functions. These functions are normally combined within other formulas to give you more purpose, because you may not see any reason to writing it on its own, but it's normally used in combination with, other functions. So as we go along, you may find some way that you can actually apply this within other functions that we're going to cover today. So the first thing we're going to do is have some random numbers here in this particular section over here. I'm going to put in a formula here in column E to give us the row for this particular section of or this particular row that we're working in. So in E1, I'm going to type in ROW followed by an open and closed bracket. And this basically gives me the output. I'm just going to click on show formula. This basically just gives me the output for that particular row. So in this case, I'm going to get 1. Now, if I were to duplicate these codes to the next line, it will just return the row for whichever cell that formula is in. So in this case, E1 to E12 basically returns 1 to 12, yeah, in its respective row. The next thing I'm going to do is in F, I'm going to put in the formula for column. Open and close bracket. Now this is returning 6. Why is it returning 6? Because the formula is in the 6th column. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F. F is the 6th column in this particular worksheet. And if I were to pull the formula down, I'll get 6 for all 12 rows because the formula for column is in the 6th column. Now, the other examples of how we can use this formula would be if I were to type in row and select a certain cell. Just say, for example, I select B6, close bracket, enter. This would return the row for the cell B6. So in this case, B6 lives in row number 6, so it's going to return 6. Yes, so the reason why these are all random here is because I use a formula to randomly generate the numbers here. Yeah, so if you want to try that out, you can just use this function. Okay, so all formulas will normally start with the equal to sign. You can just type something like this, rand between, and you can put in the range of values that you want to populate the cells that you're working with. So for example, if I say maybe 10 to the 20. Okay, so then what I do is I just drag this down and I drag it to the right, and that's how you can populate some values into your cell. So you can put any random values you want. Yeah, so that's why when I show my formulas, it shows this random there because I've used the formula to generate the values. Okay, so next. So this basically we see that it just returns the row in which that particular cell that we've selected lives in. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply the same thing for column. So we put in the formula for column. So CO, and I'll select maybe this one. Okay, B9. So I think you guys will know that this is going to return 2, right? Because it's column number 2 in this worksheet. Yes, B2 is column number 2. So that's why we get 2 return. The next thing, if we want to use rows, pluralized word for rows, and we select A1 up to C12. Okay, so this returns 12. It gives us the row from this particular range, A1 to C12. Next, we'll apply the same thing, the same formula for columns. I'll just replace rows with columns, but using the same range. This returns 3 because in that range that I've selected A1 to A12, I have 3 columns. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this is not a function that we use on its own. It's not a standalone function. It's normally used in combination with some other function in Excel, yeah, because on its own, it may not serve much purpose. Okay, so now next what we're going to do is we're going to move on to VLOOKUP. Okay, so before we go into VLOOKUP, Siti is going to explain what VLOOKUP basically consists of, what it's made up of, the different components that make up the VLOOKUP function.
Okay, I think VLOOKUP is quite common to some of us. V stand for verticals, yeah? So I want to start with some of the simpler lookup reference function. So we are in the second, yeah? All right. Okay, so as we know, yeah, we have two of the most common powerful lookup function in Excel is actually V and H lookup. V stand for vertical, H stand for horizontal. So these are generally used when you need to combine two different data arrays with a common field. So for instance, if I have product level data in one array where I have quantity and product 1D, yeah, in 1D. And then I have another array of data with the same product with the same price informations. And what I want is actually to merge those data sources so that I will have a quantity. So ID and price, okay, product ID and price all in one spreadsheet. So the lookup is a great tool to use for us to do that, yeah. So there are a few components of the lookup functions. It starts with the lookup value. So that is the value that you are trying to match. It is typically the common field that exists between the two arrays, the source and the lookup, or the second component is a lookup array. So this is where you are trying to find the lookup value. And the third piece is the column index number. So in your table array, where you are looking for, you look at the value, which column or data would you like to return? So that is typically where your variable is that you are trying to pull into your first source array. And then last but not least, yeah, you have a range lookup, which basically just say they are trying to match the exact look value or something similar. So if you're trying to look up the exact value, which are used for the text string and words, you will put a 0 or the word false there. Otherwise, you can put a 1 true. So for instance, yeah, if you are looking at numbers with a bunch of decimal places, and you don't need it to match. Exactly, you could see that, but just 99% of the time, you are going to use a 0 or exact as your range lookup. So in this example again, yeah, I have this product level data that I just described. And in one array, I've got product name, quantity, and product ID. And in my second array, I've got product and price. So as you can see, product is a common field between them. And what I want to do is find the price in my lookup array and pull it into my source array. And so, yeah, in cell D2, I have created a price column. So I'm going to say it as a VLOOKUP, whether in which happen to be the product t-shirt within my table array G 1 through H5. So yeah, it's going to go row by row until it finds the lookup value, which in this case, it is finding it in row number 5. And then it wants to return the data from the second column over since that's the column's index number. So it finds t-shirt move to the second column over, find the value of 14.99 and returns it in 2. And then as you apply this VLOOKUP table down, it's going to be looking at a sweater and shorts and socks all within this lookup array. So that is what VLOOKUPs for. So now let us look at the horizontal lookup. So H stands for horizontal, yeah? Work almost exactly the same way. It is really the same syntax. The only difference is that you need to use an H lookup if your lookup array is transposed, which is kind of an odd way of showing the data. But sometimes, yeah, you will run across data sets that are built in this way. So it works the same way. The only difference is that it will move column by column until it finds its lookup value and then move down to the specified row index number. As opposed to moving row by row and moving to a column index number for the VLOOKUP. So again, same exact concept. You just use it when your data is transposed. All right. So two very, very important rules that you need to remember when you use VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions. The first is that your lookup value has to be the first column if you are using VLOOKUP, or the first row if you are using an HLOOKUP of your table array. So you can have the table array that goes from column 8D, where the column value or matching columns is column D. Okay. So the second rule is that Excel will always return the value from the topmost row. So if you are doing a VLOOKUP, if you are doing a VLOOKUP on the leftmost column, if you are doing HLOOKUP of the table array, if multiple instances of your lookup value are present. So this is a very, very important distinction to make here, which is that if I go back to my VLOOKUP example, for instance, yeah, if I'm looking at the value t-shirt in the lookup array, right, yeah, let's say two lines in a row had t-shirt as the product with different price. The VLOOKUP is going to stop at the first time it finds the values it is looking for. So in this case, t-shirt and return the price in the second column over for the first instant. It is not even going to know that there were multiple instances because it stops at the first one. So the way to get around that is to identify a key that is common to both data set and unique for every row. All right, so that is the key piece here. So it typically takes the form of, this concatenation, yeah, concatenation. It's difficult for me to pronounce this word. Concatenation of multiple fields. But basically, concatenation, which can be accomplished just using the ampersand sign in Excel. Just meshes together to text field into one. This is sometimes they call it concatenate. Okay. So let us move to the third exercise, which is how to work on the VLOOKUP example. Back to Sujata.
Okay, so now we're going to look at the second tab here, which is we're going to be working with two tabs. We're going to start off with this one called products. Yeah, so if you've downloaded the Excel sheet, you can go to that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the different ways we can basically use the VLOOKUP. So I have one table here, which is from A1 to C5. And we're going to see how we can do a VLOOKUP to find the exact match, approximate match, if the value is not found, and how we combine the if statement with the VLOOKUP. Yeah, then what we're going to do next is once we've done this, we are going to apply the formula into an invoice. We're going to create a simple invoice, put in some formulas, and see how we can populate data from a different sheet into this sheet by referencing certain information from the product sheet. Okay, so we'll start off here first. Now, if we were going to write a VLOOKUP to find the exact match for this cell over here, A7. Yeah, so we went through the anatomy of the VLOOKUP function. So first, how we start off with is we start off with the equal to sign, as we do with all functions in Excel. So all formulas normally start with equal to. Then we use the word we. What we're going to do is we're going to select the cell that we are going to look up. So in this case, if you look at the tooltip at the bottom there, you have the items that actually go into the VLOOKUP formula. You have the lookup value, the table array, the column index number, and the range lookup. Okay, so whatever that we see in the square bracket is normally optional. It's not something that you need to put in. Yeah, so starting off with the lookup value. So in this case, it's going to be this value that I have in my cell A7. So I select A7, comma. Next is the table array. So my table array is actually from here, A2 to C5. So I'm going to select the values A2 to C5. Right, so that appears here now. And the next thing I'm going to select is the column in which I want to be returned from that table that I'm referencing. So in this case, I have my value A27. That's the code. I want the price to be returned to me. So in my table array, the first column is my code. The second column is my product. The third column is my price. So since I want the price returned, that is the third column in my array. So I put the number 3 here because it's the third column that I want to, information from the third column that I want returned to me. So that's the column index that goes into the formula. So the first is the lookup value that you want to look up. The next is which table am I going to find this information. So you take the range of that table. And from this table, what value do I want to return? So you put in the column number for that particular field that you're looking to be returned back into the formula. So in this case, it's going to be number 3 because I want the price return. If I were to want, if I want the product returns, then I would replace this with number 2. Now, once you've put in this information, you can see that you get the option to either put in a true or a false. Now, in the case where you put in a true, what happens is the VLOOKUP function will find the first instance of A27 in the table range and return that. It will look for A27 and return that value. So it finds the exact match. If I were to put false, it finds the exact match and it returns that. Now, if I were to put A27 and I put it as true match, which means approximate match, what it does is it will find the first instance of maybe A2, for example, and just return that value because that is approximate to the A27. It's the closest to the value of A27. So with the first instance that is closest to A27 would be returned if we choose approximate match. So it's something that we don't use when we want the exact value to be returned. So later on, I'll show you some examples where you can use true and where you can use false. But the first few examples will use exact match because we're looking for the exact value to be returned. So in this example, I'm going to type in false. because I want the exact value A27 to be found in my table, and I want the referencing, the corresponding price to be returned back to me. So I type in enter, and I get 75 return because A27 price is 75. Now the next thing we look at is approximate match. Again, this is using VLOOKUP. So the same formula, VLOOKUP. So I'm referencing this cell, 89, comma. The table range is still the same. So you could actually use a named array for this if you want. You can name this range because you're using it several times here. So if you want to practice, you can put that as a named array and just put in the name to replace the range A2 to C5. And the column I want return again is the price. So I'm going to put 3. And now instead of putting it as false, I'm going to type true. Okay, so now you see with this example, I get $5 returned because VLOOKUP found the first instance that was closest to A27. So in this case, it was A2. Although it's A23, but it recognized A2 and returned the value 5. Yes, so in this case, maybe it's not suitable to use approximate match. Okay, so now we're going to look at the example of VLOOKUP. The kind of error we'll get if we use a VLOOKUP function and we get a value, we are looking for a value that doesn't belong to the range that we're working with. Yeah, so let me just type that in. So same formula, VLOOKUP. Okay, so this is the cell I'm looking for. So as you can see, A28 is basically, it's nowhere in my, in the table that we are working with. So in the same range, I'll select here, comma. The column index I want returned is 3. And I will use exact match. Now, this is the error that I would get. Okay, so with this error, we can actually correct it using an if statement. I think Cindy showed some of the examples of how we could do this earlier. So we're going to combine an if statement with the VLOOKUP statement to correct this error and put in a more personalized message. So for example, if you are working with, you're coming up with an Excel for a project or a file or for someone else to use, and that person is not very familiar with Excel, they may get a bit confused when they get a message like NA, like what am I supposed to do? What does this mean? So what we're going to do is we're going to customize the message and make it more user-friendly in the sense that when the error message appears, the person, whoever's that's working with that Excel sheet knows what that error actually means. Okay, so we're going to combine an if statement and put it within the put the VLOOKUP statement within that if statement to personalize or customize the error message that's going to appear. Okay, so type that in. This code, this formula is slightly lengthy, so I'll paste it in the chat later. So the first thing we're going to do is put in the if. Okay, so if, then you have the logical test, and then you have the condition when it is true, if the if is true, and the condition if the if is false. Okay, so within this particular if statement, we are going to type is NA. So what this means is it checks whether the value is NA If it is NA, then it returns true or false. So it's going to be several nested formulas within here. So you have your if, then you have your is NA, and within this we will also have the lookup. Okay, so is NA basically checks to see if there's a NA value and returns true or false. Okay, so now we put in this again. We go back to our range. Then we want the third column returned, and we want the exact match. Just hold on, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so what this is doing is now, sorry, let me just copy this into the chat before I explain. Okay, so what this is doing now is it checks to see whether within the range, within our lookup function, if the value is found within that range. In the case where it's not found, it's going to return product code not found. In the case where it's found, it will return the found value, the value that, you know, C45, if it finds it within the range, it returns that. So in this case, if you saw the output, I got 50 cents, which is true. Now, what if I put in a value that does not belong in the table, like for example, A28? Okay, then we get the message, product code not found returned. Yeah, so this is how the nesting works, where you can have within, you can have functions within functions that you can apply and use to make your sheet more user friendly and more that more people can use without getting errors that people don't understand. So this is one way of actually applying the is NA as well as the VLOOKUP together with the if statement. So now, since we've covered this, so the code, whatever you put within this double quote here, this is your customized message within the double quote. So you can put in any message you want. If you were to, type not found, you can put any specific, basically any message you want to suit the scenario that you're working with, or the data set that you're working with to make sense. Yeah, so whatever here, you can change, you can put something shorter if you want. It doesn't have to be this long. So yes, okay, so now using this, what we're going to do is we're going to populate this particular sheet that we have with some formulas that we will put in to get the product as well as the unit cost. And then from there, we're going to, what is, Siti, can you see that? In which part? In the formula? Is it in the formula? You mean inside the formula? Yes, you can use a ranged value. Siti will get back to you on the question. So now, so here what we're going to do is we are going to populate certain values here. Let me just clear off. I think I didn't clear this off. Okay, so if you have this in your sample, you can just remove. I'll tell you how I populated this data set over here. Yeah, I'm going to delete this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in the codes from this table. We have these codes here. We're going to populate, we're going to put a drop down for people to be able to select what values they want to use. And from there, that will automatically give us the product and the unit cost, and the total will be calculated for us. Okay, so how do we populate this for it to give us a drop down? What you need to do is you can just select this range from 7 to A7 to A13, just highlight that section there. Then go to data. Okay, the tab data. Okay, you can see we have files, home, insert, page layout, formula. Next to formulas, there's something called data. Click on that. And you see there are several groups here. We have get and transform data, queries and connections, data types, sort and filter, and then you have your data tools. So what we're looking for is under this group called data tools, which is next to forecast. Yeah, so data tools. Under data tools, you can see there are several icons there. We are going to the one at the bottom here, the one with the check and the no entry. Go to that icon and click on that icon. Yeah, which that particular icon is for data validation. So click on that icon. Okay, so you get this particular prompt that appears. Now here, what we are going to select is under allow, select list. Okay, under allow, select list. And now we need to select the source. So for the list that we want, the list of values that we want to appear in our dropdown, where is that list going to come from? So that list may be within the workbook, it may be somewhere else, but you need to select it. So you just click on this arrow key over here, and we go to the products tab and select these codes from A2 to A5. Okay, so as you can see here, now under our range, we have products exclamation. So when you are referencing a sheet that is not another sheet in your current workbook, normally you use the name of that particular worksheet followed by an exclamation mark. So that means you're referring to a sheet that is not within your sheet. Yeah, so we are at invoice now, but we are referencing some information in products. So because it's a different sheet, I need to start off with the name of that sheet, followed by the exclamation mark, and then that gives us the range. Now, the what you see here, things like the dollar signs here, this means the range is fixed. It's not going to move. It remains permanent. Okay, then you click OK. So when you go back here now, you can see that you have a drop down that you can select the quotes from. So you can, sometimes I use this if I'm working with a worksheet that I have to populate with, maybe gender, male, female. So the data is repetitive. So I don't want to type it over and over again. So I can just do that gender column to have a drop down like this, where I just select male or female. Oh, okay. Okay, so I hope you guys can follow. So this is how you can populate your table to give you the a drop down for the quotes. Yeah. So the next thing we're going to do, we want to automatically have our product appear. Once we've selected the code, we want the product to automatically appear in our product section over here. And we want the unit cost to also automatically be populated when we select the code. So simultaneously, when we select the code, product and unit costs will appear. So how we're going to do this is we're going to use the same formula that we used here, which is this code. Okay, the only difference is, let me just copy this code. I'm just going to copy the exact same code. And I'm going to go back to invoice. And I'm going to put in here, okay, in the formulas bar. And I'm going, I know there's a problem with this. I just want you to see the error before I show you how you can actually correct it. So for product, it's actually in our second column, right? If you remember the table, so I'm going to change this to 2 because I don't want the price to be returned here. I want the product. Okay, so it's the same formula. Then I press enter. Okay, let me go back here. Okay, sorry, I forgot to put in the name of the sheet. So this is a good place to put in your named array. Yeah, if you remember what we did earlier, you can name your array. So this is where you can actually replace this whole line with the name. This whole range, you can replace it with a name. Okay, so yeah, this should work now. Okay, did I put in the correct place? Yeah, I pasted in the wrong cell. Okay, so I'm going to paste this code in B7. Okay, so now it says it's not found. Let me put. Yeah, because it's referencing the wrong cell. Yeah, so that's the error there. A7. That's my cell. This is A7. Okay, this cell here is A7. So this is my lookup value. So it should be A7, followed by the table range, followed by the column I want returned. Product number 2, yeah. Sorry, not number 3. I think I put the wrong one. Yeah, lamp. So let me choose another. Okay, select. Now, I'm not going to copy this into the chat yet because it's not the final version. Now, if I want to populate the remaining part of my tables, I can, of course, just double click it or drag it down. Now, you see, as I dragged it down, it's giving me some different answers. Now, why is it doing that is because of the referencing to the table. Like, for example, now if I click on this, can you see here the range is A5 to C8. my table range is actually A2 to C5, which is not, it's showing that my range is not fixed because I didn't use the ampersands, the absolute referencing. So it's very important that we fix our table range by including this ampersand or the dollar sign to fix the range for our table. So as we drag the formula down, it does not get populated with the by adding one to it, or adding one to that particular range, and that would actually move our table range. So we need to fix the range by adding the dollar sign. So what this means is the column A is fixed, row 2 is fixed, column C is fixed, row 5 is fixed. So you're fixing those values. If I only want to fix column A and leave 2 without the absolute referencing, you want to make it relative, you can do that as well, depending on the kind of solution you want, the kind of data set that you're working with. Yeah, so this is not something that you fix for every solution. It depends on the data set that you're working with, what you're trying to solve using the VLOOKUP function. Okay, so now I'll drag it down again to populate my table. Okay, so this gives me the answers that I want. Yeah. Okay, so let me just clear this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat the same formula. Okay, so I'll just copy this into the chat now since it's complete. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just copy this formula again. And I'm going to go to C7. And I'm going to paste the same formula there in C7. Now, the only difference is instead of returning column 2 now, I want the price return, which is in the third column. So I changed the 2 to 3 in the formula. Okay, so now I have the price there. And I can populate this. Okay, but I don't want this. Okay, so if I were to select you can leave it, if you don't want any message to appear, you want to leave it blank, you can just put a blank quote over there. So we don't get the product not found there. So we just put an empty quote. Okay, so you can go on to select. Okay, so now since we've done this, the next step would be to when someone is ordering like the desk, or they want, like, they don't want one desk, they want multiple desks, then we're going to calculate the total for that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put in a formula that will take in the quantity, multiply it with the unit cost, and return the total. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use an if statement here because we want to perform a logical test to see if the quantity is 0, then it's just going to leave it blank. It's not going to put in any total there. It only will count, give us a total if there is a value in the quantity. Okay, so I'm going to use the if statement to do that. So if this cell over here is equal to blank, and we don't want anything returned. If it is not, if it's true, then we want it to be multiplied by C7 multiplied by quantity. Okay, so in the case where we don't have any values there, it's going to be blank. If there's a value, it's going to multiply the unit cost with the quantity. Okay, so since I don't have any quantity there, if I put 1, it's going to give me 75. If I put 2, it's going to be give me 150, and so on. So we just type this code in, and then you can populate the remaining part of the cells at the bottom. You just drag it down. Okay, so as you fill up the quantity, get the total value. Okay, so now what's left is we need to calculate the grand total as well as the subtotal. So for subtotal, the formula is basically the sum of whatever we have here. The sum of whatever we have here from E7 up to E13. Okay, so we just put in a simple sum formula here for us for it to do that for us. So it's just sum. You can either choose to type, or you can just go and drag it like this, close. That gives us a sum for all these values that we have here. Now, the grand total will be the sum plus the 10% tax that we have. So for tax, we need to calculate what's the tax for this value that we have in E15 multiplied by E16, this value. Okay, this value multiplied by this value. So it's just going to be this multiply. I just put the asterisk to multiply. And that gives you the 10%. Then we get the grand total which is just these two values added up. So you can just do a very simple formula, which is this plus this. Okay, that gives you the grand total of how much the invoice will be. Okay, so in this example, as you can see, okay, let me just show the formulas. Okay, so in this example, basically we've combined, it's just to create a simple invoice, but you've combined the VLOOKUP with a combination of if statement and to check to see if you have an error. And then we use the if statement to also calculate the total. And from there, at the bottom, we have some simple formulas to give us the subtotal as well as the grand total. And we use data validation to give us a drop down of the codes that we want to use here. Yeah, so data validation is something that I feel that many of us will find useful especially when we work with repetitive data that you have to populate over and over again. And you want just a drop down to help you do that instead of you keying it over and over. Okay, so next we're going to move on to fuzzy match. Okay, so this is the fuzzy match lookup. Fuzzy match lookup, this is when we are working with approximate match. Okay, so one thing I want you to remember is when you work with exact match, normally you're looking for the exact value from the range that you have. But if you're working with fuzzy match or approximate match, the range, you normally have a range in the table array that you're working with. So in this case, we have your order ID, you have your amount, your order amount. Based on the order amount, you want to assign the discount that particular person is going to get, or that particular order will receive. What is the discount? So the value belongs to a range, because the order amount between 0 to 24.99, the discount is 0%. If it's 25 to 49.99, it's 5%. If it's 50 to 99.99, it's 10%. And if it's more than 100, it's 20%. So if you observe, normally if we want to work with approximate match, we have a range that we are working with. Why? Because when we are looking for the lookup value may not fall into the category, may not fall into the table range that you have if it's an exact match, and that's going to give you an error. So what I'm going to do first is, with this example, I'm going to show you first with the error. We're going to put in the formula with the exact match, and then you'll see that it's going to give you an error, and then we'll change it to the true match. Okay, so let's do the VLOOKUP here. Okay, so if you recall the components that belong to the VLOOKUP function, you can try it on your own. So it's VLOOKUP. So the discount is going to be based on the order amount. Okay, so our lookup value would be the order amount. So the first, in this cell, we're going to put in the lookup value as B2. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to put in the table array. Okay, so the table array is actually the table in yellow that we have there, but it's only F and G. Okay, you don't have to include E into that, because that is just a reference there for us to know that what amount gives us the discount. Okay, so the minimum amount for this, so this first cell that you have, F2, would actually be from 0 to 24.99, and then the next cell will be from 25 to 49.99, and so on, yeah, the way it's written in the table. So we're going to select this range. Okay, so it's from F2 to G5, right? Now, next thing we want to put in is the column index. What do we want returned back to us from this table range? So we want the discount to be returned to us. So that is in the second column in the table. So you put number 2. Okay, so we want the discount returned. So that is from our second column. So you type in 2 there. Now the next thing we're going to put in is the what kind of match is this? Do we want an approximate match, or we want the exact match? So just to show you the difference, I'm going to show you the incorrect version first, and then I'll show you with the true. So I'm going to put in false. Press enter. Okay, so like I said, this is going to give us an error. So it says NA, which means that item is not found. I'm just going to type that code in the chat. Okay, so this item is not found, so it's returning NA. But if I populate the remaining now, one thing I also forgot to put is this. So if you see, if I forget to put this, when I click on this, you see my table array is moving. Can you see the box? It goes down. So that's why it's giving us NA. So I need to put in my absolute referencing here. Right? So remember to put your absolute referencing. So your table array does not move when you drag your formula down. Okay. Okay, so now you see not everything is NA. You can see that, okay, this is the correct one, yeah, with the absolute referencing. Now you see that some of it have values in it. Now, why do those have values? Because if you look at row 8, right, the order amount is 25. 25 is able to give an exact match because you have 25 in the minimum column. So it's able to find that value. If you look at row 19, you have 20%. The order amount is 100 because 100 is in our table. So those don't give us an error because it's able to find the exact value in our table array. So in order for us to correct this problem, we need to change the match to an approximate match. So we replace it with the word true instead of using false. So when you do that, what happens is if your order amount belongs to a certain range that is within the table, the discount amount will be returned in this column. Yeah, so this is the correct way of writing this. So normally, if you're working with range of values, then you have to use an approximate match to help you solve that problem. Yeah. Okay, so this is another name for approximate match. Some people call it fuzzy match. So that's why this tab is named as fuzzy match. Yeah. So this is on approximate match. Yeah. So if you're working with ranges, you use that. Now, here is again another way of actually applying VLOOKUP. Here we have the ID. Based on the ID that's keyed in, we want to find out what the salary is for that person as well as the last name for that particular person. Yeah, so how would you do this? This is actually based on the range of tables that you have here. So again, VLOOKUP. The table is from A2 to D8. Sorry, I forgot to put my lookup value. So the lookup value is this value here, which is G2. This is my table array. Next is the column index. So salary is in my fourth column, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want the fourth column returned here. And this is going to be an exact match. Okay, so here you can format it to show currency if you want. So for ID number 79, okay, you can see the salary is 91,632. Okay, so now if you were to find the last name, it's the same formula. The only thing that changes would be the column that you're returning back, which is the third column for last name. Okay, so we can just copy the same thing. For this, absolute referencing is not really very important because we're not, the formula basically only lives in that particular cell, right? We're not going to populate any other cell with the same formula. So you can actually omit if you don't want to include the absolute referencing, you can, but if you want to, it doesn't make much of a difference as well. Okay, so we have Lopez return. So if you look at 79, last name is it Lopez? Yeah, 79 is Lopez, and the salary is 91,362. So if I change this to maybe 14, then I get Mia, and her last name is Clark. Okay, so this is a different application, just a different way of writing the VLOOKUP formula. Okay, so the next example. Now, some of us may find this more useful when we are trying to populate the students' grades into our Excel sheet. So you have here, what I've done is I've actually split the grades into one cell and the report card in another cell. So you can give this a name, as I showed you earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a name for this range here. I'm going to call it, okay, I'm going to call it, I'll just leave it as score then, score. You can put grading system or grade, up to you. Any name that you feel is suitable to represent the data that you've selected. The scope is going to be this variable, and this refers to this tab, grades, from A2 to B6, which is the range I selected. Then I click score. So when you do this kind of names, you have to remember how you spell the name, whether it's uppercase S, lowercase s, and so on, because it makes a difference here. Then you click OK. Okay, so this tab grades is just it just has the grades of the grading system. Now, what we're going to do is in report card, the next step, we are going to populate these cells over here, F, with the formula that gives us the VLOOKUP formula that's going to put in the grade for us based on the score that we have. Okay, so the difference here is I'm going to use a named array to do this. So it's VLOOKUP. This is the lookup value. So remember my table array, I gave it the name score. So as you type, you'll see that all those names will actually appear. Whatever names you have in your whatever name that you've defined in this workbook will appear. So in this case, score is already there. So I just press tab. And if you look at the table, you only have 2 columns there. So you want the second column to be returned, which is the grade. So 2. And I want, in this case, okay, so in this case, since we are working with a range again, I'm going to use approximate match. So I'm going to type in true. Okay, so 77, if you go back here, 77, yeah, 77 is a B. Okay, so 70 to 84 is a B, so it returns 77. Then I just drag this down. Okay, so with this, you can see your range. The formula becomes shorter because you've actually used the named array, and it's still referencing grades from this table over here, grades from A2 to B6, but you are able to write it in a shorter form because you used a named array. So this is actually replacing the table array range. Yeah, you're using a name instead of writing the entire range there. Okay, so I'll put this in the chat, but you can replace it with whatever name you used earlier. If you followed the example that I did earlier, you can use that name to replace score. Okay, so now, what's the difference between HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP? So the most basic difference, the easiest way to explain this is, if you are working with a VLOOKUP, the table or the table range is normally the fields at the columns. But when you work with HLOOKUP, you can see that the way the table is designed is the fields are in the row. So if you look at this example, I go back to grade, you can see the score, and score is in A1. My score is here in column A1A, and my grade is in column B. But if I go to HLOOKUP, the first example in HLOOKUP, the first field is in B2, the second field is in B3. So this is where we say that we use HLOOKUP when the table is transposed. So this is how your table would look like. So here we have a table, and what we're going to do is we're going to find the item based on whatever we have in cell B7. So if we have south there, we want 410, the sales for south, which is 410, returned into cell C7. Okay, so we're going to put in the formula to do that. And you see that the formula is the same as the VLOOKUP formula. The only difference is we start with H lookup. Instead of VLOOKUP, it's horizontal. Okay, horizontal. And you start off with the lookup value. So in this case, the lookup value is here. Okay, so either you can type in later on east, west, north, south, and based on whatever that's in this cell B7, the H lookup is going to return the sales for corresponding to that particular region. Then you select your range. So your range is going to be from C2 up to F3. C2 up to F3. So you just select that. And then we select, we want, which row do we want returned? So it's the second row because the first row is our region. And we want the second row returned, which is the sales value. So you type in 2. And this is going to be an exact match because we're not working with range. The values are fixed there, right? 200 east, the sales is 200, west 350, north 275, and south 410. So we will type in false. Okay, so you get 410 returned here. If I change this to west, I get 350. If I change this to east, it's 200. Okay, so when to use VLOOKUP, when to use HLOOKUP, you have to look at how your table array is designed, how the placement of the fields are. Then you can decide whether to go for VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP. Okay, so this is HLOOKUP with exact match. The second example, if you look at the second example is when we use HLOOKUP with the range of values. So here we have different ranges based on the range that you're working with, you will get the loan rate that is corresponding to that period. So from January to March, it's 0.25. From April to June, it's 0.3. From July to September, it's 0.35. And October to December, it's going to be 0.32. Okay, so how would you write this? Exact same way, H lookup. Your reference value is your C5. The table array is going to be from C2 to F3. And what you want returned is the second row. So you put in 2. And this is going to be an approximate match because it's working with ranges. So you use approximate match. So you type in true. Okay, so you can see 25th December, it's going to return 32. If I were to type in 9 August, 0.35 because it's in this range over here. Okay, so that is on basically the VLOOKUPs and the HLOOKUPs. The next thing we're going to look at is index and match. So index and match, I've put in some examples over here, how we're going to apply it. So for match index, let's look at this one first. So match and index, you can use it in, if you don't want to use a VLOOKUP, you're trying to find a different way of, performing the same thing, but you want to use index and match to do it, we can use this in place of using a VLOOKUP statement. So we're going to start off with the match function first, because the match function only returns a position, a location. It doesn't actually give us the actual value. So normally it's used in combination with the index function. Yeah, so I'm just going to show you some basics first before we apply it in a two-way lookup as well as the price checker example. Okay, so let's do a simple match first. Okay, so this is the match index function. So we have your ID, we have ID here, first name, last name, and salary. Okay, so I'm just going to put in the formula here. Okay, so the ID here is 53. So I'm going to put the formula here for salary. And I'm going to use match H2. I'm going to find the match for H2. And I'm going to look for it in this section here. So this is actually using only a single array. It's only referring to one location, which is your ID. Later on, when we do the two-way lookup, we will see how we can reference two different columns to find the information we want, where we do the cross-referencing. So match H2, which is in this case now 53. Our range is from B3 to B9. I'm trying to find the match. And then match type, I'm going to put it as 0. So for match type, you can leave it, it's optional. You don't have to put a match type there if you don't want to. But if we put it as 0, what happens is it's going to return an error if it doesn't find the match. If you put in 1, it will find the approximate match, the closest thing to the value that you have in your, that you're looking for. So in this case, I'm just going to put it as 0 because I want to know if it's not found. I want to know by me getting an error message. Okay, so 53 now returns with my match. With my match from this range, B3 to B9, I get 5 returns. So why is it returning me 5? Because when we count from B3 to 53, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's the 5th location in this particular range. So when we work with match, it only returns the location, the position where that value is at in that particular range. Now, if I were to change this, okay, so this is, I'll just put that, this is using match. If I were to change this using index, okay, so index is slightly, it returns a specific value from a one-dimensional array. So we just type in index. Okay, so index followed by the range that we want to look at. Okay. We just type that in first, index. So from this particular range, E3 to E9, I want to find the 5th, what's in the 5th location. So index will return to me, in this case, 58,339. Okay, so this is using index. So normally when we work with indexes and arrays, it will be used in combination. So what I'm going to do now is I want to combine index and match to return, based on the ID that I type in, it's going to return the salary. but I'm going to combine it because what's going to happen is the match function will return the position and the index function needs that position. So it's a very good combination because you want that position, the index is going to use it, and the index is going to use that function to return the value that belongs to that position in that range. Yeah, so we're going to combine these two. Okay, so I'll start off with index. Within the index, which is actually this formula here, E3, 9, the salary. I'm going to get first. So I'm going to use a match, which is the exact same formula we wrote earlier. You can just copy and paste it if you want. H2, 2, 9. Okay, so as you can see, you get the same answer here, but this is combination of index and match. So as you can see here, the first, we read the nesting first, which is the match. The match gets us the position, and using that position, the index gets the value that resides in that position, in that cell in our table. Yeah, so we have to use it together when we want to use it in place of a VLOOKUP function. Okay, so this is using a one-dimensional range. You can also use it in a two-dimensional range. So if you look at the two-way lookup in the next cell, what we're going to do here is we're going to write a match function to find out the cells based on the month and the flavor of the flavor we have, whether it's chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla. Okay, so I'm just going to write the formula here. Okay, so let's do this first. We're going to first find the position of okay, so we're going to find the position for the month first. So it went my chart first. So it's from G12 or G2, sorry. Then the range is going to be from A2 to A13, comma 0. This is what we wrote earlier. Just testing it out again. You can do the same formula, the match formula for chocolate as well. Only thing, change the lookup value to here and the range will be from B1 to D1. G3. Sorry, I missed out the G3. Okay, so you can see that for February it returns 2, for chocolate it returns 1 because chocolate is the first position in this particular range. February is the second in this particular range. Now, how do we use this to get the sales for that particular month? Okay, so I'm going to put a simpler formula here where I'm going to put in the index. Okay, so the index will take in B2 to D13, which is the range, the table, where the value is going to reside in any of these cells. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take in the formula from H2 and H3. Okay, so this is basically the match function, but instead of typing the match into the formula now, I've actually just done it by calling in the formulas that I have in H1 and H2. So you can do it this way if you want to. The other way of doing it would be by typing the entire code in there if you want. You know, you can have your index with the 2 matches inside. Okay, so this is one way. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just show you the longer way of doing it. Because we already have the codes in H2 and H3. We want to combine these two into our index function. So index for the range that we have, which is from here to here. Now I want the position for the month and the flavor by using my match function. So I just type in the same function that I have here. Match to D2 to from A2 to A13, 0. So I'm getting the position for the month. The next, I'm getting the position for the flavor. So this is from B1 to D1. And return, if there's an error, it will tell me there's an error. Okay, I think I forgot to close one bracket. Match. Okay, so it's 2 different ways of application, but it's the same formulas. If you look at it, it's the same formula. So you can choose whichever that's more you feel is more convenient or makes more sense, or it's easier for you to write. So yeah, so this is one way of doing it. So let me just paste this into Excel. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to combine all of this into a price checker example where we are going to put in simple data validations to help us calculate the price for the product based on the product and the product size that you're going to key in. Okay, so this is going to combine it's going to combine match and index to do it as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the data validation that allows us to put in to select the product and the size. Okay, so how you do that, if you recall from the earlier example, select the cell in which you want the data validation to appear in, go to the data tab. Under data validation, which is in the data tools, select data validation, allow, select list. And for products, our source is going to be from B3 to B7. Okay, so I'm just going to select B3 to B7. And then I click OK. So now I have all these items here. The next thing I'm going to do is put in the data validation for the size. Same steps. Under data tools, go to data validation, select list, and the source is going to be from C2 to G2. Yeah, C2 to G2. Click OK. So now you have your sizes here. XS, small, medium, large, and large. So we're going to put in a combination now. It's similar to what we did here, where we're going to have, we're going to find the position for the pens, for the product, and the position for the size using the match function. And then with that position, the index function is going to return the value. Yeah, so let's put that formula here into the price. So I'm going to write, maybe I'll write the match function first, so it's easier. So match B10. Okay, so we're going to take the pens first. I'll have to type it out. Yeah. Equal to B10. And it's from the range B3 to B7. This will give us the position for the product. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in another match to give us the position for the size, the sizes that we have. So this is from, it's going to look up the value from C10. And the range is from here to here. Return if there's an error. Okay, so all of this, both the matches are going to return the position. We need the index, put in the index. We need the index now to use this position to tell me how much that product is. So how much that product is belongs to this particular range here. Okay, so this is our formula. And yeah, because I haven't filled up. So. Okay, so that's the formula. I just typed it in there. So depending on what you put in, you will get the corresponding price. So shorts, medium is $13. If I were to select extra large, it's 14. If I were to want to select extra large t-shirt, it's 17. So depending on what you put into your product and size, you can get the price. Yes, so that is on the match and index. Okay, so I think I'll just quickly go through because we're almost out of time. For choose, okay, so we have another lookup function here, which is choose. So choose is basically sorry. Choose is something that we use when we also want to make a selection, a different kind of option that we can use in place of any of the lookup functions that we have. But the choose function uses a combination of other functions that you have to put in as well. So here we have the IMDb ratings for movies from 2016 to 2018. Now, based on these ratings, we are going to put in a choose function to calculate the average for us. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in for the years, for us to select the year, I'm going to put in a drop down for us to do to select the year. So I'm going to use data validation to do that. So the source is going to be from here to here, C3 to E3. Click OK. Okay, so I have my years there. Now, then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select what sort of calculation I want to perform on this particular rating information that I have. Okay, so I'm going to have an if statement there to give me to assign a certain value, so that I will take that value into my choose function in order for me to calculate the rating. Yeah, so I'm going to type the formula here in I5, which is basically, okay, so in the interest of time, I'll just copy and paste the formula. Okay, so based on what I select here, it will have a corresponding value. Now for the data validation for average, max, and minimum, I actually just typed it in. I went into data validation, I selected list, and these words, I just typed it in average, AVG, comma, max, comma, min. Yeah, so you can just do that. If you don't have a list that's available in your sheet, you can just type, if it's a shorter list, then you can just type it into the data validation itself. So using an if statement, I now assigned a value. I assigned a value to average. For average, it's 1. For max, is going to be 2. And for minimum, it's going to be 3. So based on that value will be taken into the choose to return the calculation for average and so on. Yeah. So this is the calculation for average. Okay, so I'm going to put in a formula here. Okay, so what this formula is doing is, based on the value that I have in my cell here, the average will be calculated based on the ranges that I have here, C4 to C13, D4 to D13, and E4 to E13. So it will take in these 3 values, and since average is actually the first option that I have here, it will actually use that option to do the calculation. Now, in the case where I have, now that I have 3 different three different options that the user has. They have the option to select minimum, maximum, and average. We can use the choose along with match for us to select which sort of calculation we're going to be using in the formula. So the formula for this is a little long, so I'll just paste it there and I'll go through it with you. Okay, so what this formula is doing is it is first finding the match for the value that we have in H4. H4 is basically this cell that we have here. And based on that, it will also find out the match that we have in terms of the calculation we want, whether it's going to be average, which is 1, whether it's going to be maximum 2, and whether it's minimum 3. So based on the calculation that we want, the formula will find the match, put it into the corresponding year that we've selected in H4, and then return the average, maximum, or minimum count for us. So if you look at the formula here now, it's slightly longer because you have combined three different calculations here. The first part, this is calculating the maximum. The second part is calculating the minimum. And the third part is calculating the minimum value for us. So it's maximum, average, and minimum. Or the three calculations have been combined here. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to also put in the I5 here, because the I5 here, which is this cell here, corresponds to which formula is selected for the calculation. So if here you've selected minimum, which is the value 3, the match will go to that formula that has been assigned to 3, which is minimum, and that calculation will go into place, and this will be returned. The value of the minimum will be returned. If 2 is selected here, then it goes into this formula, which is the calculation for 2. And if 3 is selected, if 1 is selected, then the average calculation goes into play. So this formula goes here. Okay. And the next thing you need to do is we need to change the rating here based on whatever we selected in cell H5. So this one becomes another formula. We're going to concatenate rating into whichever form calculation we want to do. So we're going to add in this cell, whatever that's in that cell. And we're going to use the ampersand to do the concatenation. Okay, we put this within double quotes. Let's enter. Okay. So as you can see here, this is actually the minimum value for 2017. Let me just calculate the average. 2017 is 6.42. If I select 6.42, I go to the bottom here. You can see the average is 6.42. So the calculation basically works. Yeah, this I should have given it a space. Okay, so the final, I think we have one more to go through. This is actually just a chart on how we can, I think I'll share the solution. Maybe I'll just explain how to do it. Let's bring in another, show this the final one, so you can just have an idea of what you can actually do with Excel. So in order for you to be able to come up with a dynamic chart, we can use a function known as offset that allows us to build a chart like this, where we can scroll this and your chart dynamically changes based on the data that you select. So in order for us to do this, first you need to have the developer tab available, because you will be using special properties like when you insert, you want to use some form controls or ActiveX controls. The one that I'm using here is a scroll bar, and that's from this section here, which is form control. Now, to get the developer tab appear, you need to actually just go to File, and you go to More, Options, and Customize Ribbon. So all you need to do is just make sure this developer is checked. So once you check this, you'll get that tab appearing on your ribbon here. So once you've done this, what you need to do is get in the scroll bar by just clicking on this, and then you just drag it in. We will basically put in some assignment like this particular control. What is it going to be assigned to? So to do that, you just need to right mouse click, go to form control, and here you can set the minimum and maximum values, which means what for this particular scroll bar, what is the minimum value is going to take, and what is the maximum value is going to take. So for this example, basically it's for the scroll, it's 0 to 6. That's the range of values you can take. And for the zoom, it's 0 to 12. So once you've put that in, the next step would be to assign or to define two, you need to define two variables. Yes, the two variables are basically X and Y. What values are going to go into your X axis, and what values are going to go into your Y axis. We do that by just going to define name. Okay, I'll just show you the name manager because I already have the names. So I have X value and Y value. And then I put in a function called offset. Yeah, so the offset function is basically going to take whatever value I have in my scroll index, which is this, and my zoom index, and that value will be later populated into my chart. Yeah, so that's the second step you need to do, which is to create define two names, X value and Y value, where you just need to put in this formula here, which is assigning which values belong to X and which values belong to Y based on the table that you have here. Yeah, so this months are going to be our X value, and impression is going to be our Y value. Now, once we've done that, the next step is to plot the table here, the chart here, and all I did was go to select data. I added in impression as the data that belongs to the y-axis, and I added in the months to belong to my horizontal axis. Yeah, so once I did that, it was actually linked to my scroll bar, and when I move my scroll and my zoom, the chart basically dynamically changes along with it. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just maybe share the solution with you guys, so maybe you can try this on your own, because I think we were supposed to end at 12:30. We are about 15 minutes delayed now, so I think I'll stop here, but I'll share this solution with all of you later. Yeah. Okay, so there's it. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Are there any questions before we end the session? Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sue and the gang. I believe the participants really learned, even though whatever, if they can learn 50% is already very, very, very good. I believe if any of the participants who have any other questions, they will be able to communicate with you and your team. Is that correct?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
All right. In that case, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. It was an eye-opener to all of us. Thank you and have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.